Throughout the Bible, many couples struggled with infertility. Biblical scholar Jeff Cavins helps us unpack these stories and glean wisdom from them. Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us today. I wanted to start with just the beginning. So, the story of God's chosen people, of us walking in faith and in relationship with God, can be said to begin with Abraham. And it began with God's promise to Abraham to make him exceedingly fertile and to make nations of him. And God says this to an infertile couple. What does this promise tell us about God and the desires of man's heart and the blessing of children?
Well, that's a good question. You know, the whole issue of fertility and the whole issue of reproducing life goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. In fact, it's the very first commandment in Scripture, very first commandment in Hebrew, pu'u ravu. Pu'u ravu means be fruitful and multiply. And everywhere you go, you will see the evidence of this dynamic, this DNA, if you will, written into the human code that we produce fruit. We are fruitful as God is fruitful. And so we come to the story of Abraham and Sarah and find out that they are having difficulty having children. They can't have children, which is a repeated problem in the Bible. There's a number of situations where they are struggling. But you have to ask yourself the question, well, if you wanted us to be fruitful and multiply, Lord, then why are some people struggling with having children? And that's the paradox there. And my wife and I actually had some difficulty in having children for the first 6 or 7 years of our life, and we experienced that. But we also see, like in the story of Abraham and Sarah, that God can do the extraordinary in order to be fruitful and multiply. And so that's what happens with Abraham.
Now, another Old Testament story about infertility is in the book of Samuel with Hannah and Elkanah. In the book, it states, Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why are you not eating? Why are you so miserable? Am I not better for you than 10 sons? Now, I'm sure a lot of husbands who carry this cross of infertility can relate to this. What can they draw from this scripture?
Well, I think what you can draw from the scripture is really two things. One is that if you listen to the intercession of Hannah, how many of us have been to the point in our life where we wanted something so bad, or we hurt so bad that our lips moved, but we didn't even say anything? It was just like, you're at the end of the rope there. That was Hannah. Hannah wanted a child so bad that she cried out to God, even in that silent cry. It's amazing. But what she said after that is a model for all of us with our children. She said, God, if you give me a child, I will lend the child back to you. And what a beautiful perspective as a parent, that if I have a child, the child is not mine. The child is a gift from God, and I will lend the child back to you, Lord, for service. And that's what Samuel ended up doing. He ended up becoming a great prophet, really the 13th judge of Israel, and the one who would anoint King David. And so this all comes from the desire for life, the intercession for life, the promise that I will give this child to you.
That's incredible. How beautiful. And I think you're right. It would be a very different world if we all took that disposition. Now, moving on to the New Testament and the Gospel of Luke. I was very struck when I was reading about Zechariah being in the sanctuary when the angel appears to him and tells him that his prayer has been heard and he will have a son. Now, what struck me about this when I was reading it is that at the time when the angel appears, he's old and his wife is barren. And so this must have been, I imagine, a prayer he would pray in his youth that he had perhaps lost hope of ever having answered. What can you tell us about this dynamic and just like the delay of answered prayers?
Well, I think it's a repetition, because we see this repeated so many times in the Bible where people have a hope for a child and they're having difficulty getting pregnant. And once they do, then the whole issue is, well, what's God's will? What does God have for this child? And one thing I really appreciate about him, the father of John the Baptist, was that the people that were praying and expecting from God were always keeping the answer in the context of serving God. What will this child do for God? Not just, we want a child, end of story. It's, we want a child, but this child is a part of salvation history. And certainly John the Baptist was a major part of salvation history. And in the visitation, when Mary visits Elizabeth, you actually have the first meeting of two babies in utero. You have Jesus, the Son of God, and you have the prophet John the Baptist, who's going to go before Jesus. And it says that John leaped inside of the womb of Elizabeth. There was this presence, there was this some level of communication there, that the young baby John the Baptist knew that the second person of the Trinity was only a few feet away. It's an amazing thing, it really is.